Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Polite Society News. My name is Paul Lathrop. I am the founder of the Self-Defense Radio Network and the founder of the Polite Society podcast. Joining me today, as he does every other Wednesday, as soon as I get the right button to hit here, Mike Piwowarski. Of course, Mike is Arms Room Radio. It's the lights in my broadcast room went out for some reason. Mike, thanks for coming on the show tonight, man.
Always a pleasure to be here, Paul. Always a pleasure to sit in with you. What's the logo on your hat there, Paul? I can't quite make it out.
That is a Hornady logo. This hat was actually given to me. I'm gonna. Okay, everybody, cover your eyes. I'm gonna remove the cap. I don't want you to be blinded here, but I'm gonna put this up close to the. I don't know if you guys. There's a Jerry Mikulik signature right there.
Wow.
So this is one of my very prized possessions. It was given to me by Willis Lee.
I'm willing to bet that Jerry Mikulik signed that hat in less than half a second.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I'm sure the tip of the pen got hot from moving it across the bill of the cap. Give me 1 second here. And I want to make sure I got two things I got to do here real quick. First is I need to start getting the social media connected and okay. There we go. Now the lights come back on. I'm in a little bit better light.
Looks like it's overcast there in your room.
Yeah, well, open secret, and anybody who's watched me for any length of time knows that I do use a green screen behind me. I did actually take that picture. Where that picture is taken is about 2 miles from my house.
Nice.
But I don't want people to see inside my house, mainly because my studio's a mess. But
same rule here.
Yeah, but you've got your bourbon collection. Really set up nicely behind you.
It is technically a collection, but this is the bar. This is where we come hang out. We do the show, and we hang out in between shows and after shows. And it's a nice little room. Got a little TV up over here. Got the fridge back in the corner with some beers in it, and we have a good time. A little sink over here, ice maker.
Wow. We're starting to get check-ins, and let me get this one up from Robert. This is unusual, and since you're in Florida, you may know what this is about. Robert says, greetings. Last day of freedom here in the free state of Florida. Can't even have the standard capacity mags my Glock 19X came with. You're a Florida guy, Mike. Do you know what Robert's talking about?
No, I'm not saying I watch every piece of news that comes out, but I have not seen that.
And it hasn't run across my radar lately. I didn't know there was a magazine limitation even in being considered for Florida.
No, the only time we had a mag limit here was during the assault weapon ban in 94 to 04.
Okay. All right. Well, we got some news we got to get through today. First thing I happened to see that there was a statement from 80% Arms about the Fifth Circuit decision. And I'm just going to read a little bit of here. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a landmark decision in Vanderstock versus Garland, overturning the ATF's frame or receiver rule and marking another significant victory for 80% Arms. The court criticized the ATF for overstepping its regulatory authority, effectively accusing it of rewriting the law without proper legal basis. This comes from the decision last week out of the Fifth Circuit. And if I'm remembering right, the Fifth Circuit said, look, this is effective in the Fifth Circuit, but it's also effective throughout the United States. That this homemade gun ban, this ghost gun ban, ATF overstepped. It's not enforceable anywhere in the United States. So, Mike, both you and I are, I'm sure, of the opinion this is the right decision for the Fifth Circuit to make. We have to see if it does get kicked up to the Supreme Court. But what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, about time, right? To see this, get caught in one of the competing circuits. Um, I'm just looking up. I got some Florida information too, when we get back off this story. The Yeah, this is we've known this, right? We've seen that this 80% rule is ridiculous. This frame or receiver rule, whatever you want to call it, whether it be ARs or the regular pistol styles for the Polymer 80s has them. Geisler has them. I think a couple others were making them as well. It's not a firearm. It's not a firearm. The ATF does like the ATF has been doing in the last number of years. They've gone out and redefined what the firearm is and tried to enforce that upon everybody out there. And this judge was very clear in their decision. It's the Vanderstock case in their decision that you can't do that. You lack the authority to do that. This is wholly unconstitutional. Congress makes laws, and you do not. You're the executive branch. You enforce the laws. You don't get to reinterpret as you see fit or add to. And that's not even it. Paul, wasn't the issue that they started to reinterpret? They added to it. They changed and added definitions to it. So that's what made it even worse. So now this is in this circuit. It's done. There's no. I want to make sure we clarify to everybody. Don't go out and start buying and selling 80% receivers again, or start building them if you're a dealer, especially because this is a ruling. And the reason there's no change right now in effect is because the Supreme Court's already put a stay on this while they denied an injunction while they're hearing the case, right?
Yeah.
So we have to wait for them and that case to be heard. Now it's not at the Supreme Court. I believe it's out of the North Texas federal district is where the case is being heard. So that has to work its way through before the Supreme Court can then examine, based on appeal from either side of the party, whether or not this is going to stay in place or be abolished, or there will be an injunction, that type of thing. And I want to say again, I mentioned FFLs. Any of the information that you see, whether it be a bump stock case, a frame receiver case, a trigger case, no matter what it is, when it says that the citizen is now allowed to do this, remember the ATF still controls you, FFLs. They control you administratively. So just because they say there's an injunction in place, you can now have a pistol with a brace on it, FFL, that doesn't mean you can. You still answer directly to the ATF. That'll be the next step of the case. Okay. First, they got the rights back of the citizens, then they'll try and get the rights back of the dealers. So dealers, please make sure you know what's going on. And as well, when the federal injunctions comes out, make sure you know what your state law is as well.
Not only that, the ATF is not only controlling you, speaking directly to the FFLs, they're actually at war with you. The ATF would love to shut each and every FFL down in the entire nation. So right now, especially, make sure you're doing everything absolutely perfectly. We want you to be around when this all gets settled out, and it will. It's going to take another couple years for everything to go through the Supreme Court, but I honestly believe in the next 3 to 4 years we're going to be a whole lot more free society firearms wise than we are right now.
I agree. I concur. I think it's going to take a little while for a lot of these cases to come back through and filter back up and down. And again, remember, Supreme Court gets cases a couple of different ways, right? You can either be somebody involved in the case and apply to the court directly to have your case heard. That's the writ of certiorari, right? And then if there are lower courts competing in the federal court level, then the Supreme Court could pick that up. And then what's the last one? The last method is, oddly enough, through like the maritime courts and military courts have that direct appeal route to the Supreme Court, because there's no intermediary courts between them.
Yeah, and if you want to see your gun freedoms go away in a hurry, enlist in the military. You have no rights, period. Not just gun rights. You have no rights, period, in the military. It's
weird in the military. We just got rid of General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was very, very anti-gun for the individual. But I'll tell you, I'll just say this: it's a different world when you come to the military, because you're talking about a literal communal living. You're talking about, here's my bunk, and there's a wooden footlocker or a wall locker here with my padlock on it, and that's the only place I have to secure my belongings. That's not secured to the floor. That's not secured to the building. So it's really one of those. Even if I had a gun, where would I keep it, kind of thing, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to get back to some comments, and this makes things a lot more clear with Robert. I'm going to pop this one up here. He says, "No, nothing about Florida law. No, I have to go back to the Democratic People's Republic of New Jersey." Mike, that's a nightmare. Going from a free state of Florida back to New Jersey.
Yeah. I've got a trip coming up next week where I'm going back to New York, but it involves not going through New Jersey to get there. So, and Paul, I know you're a traveler. You do the same thing as well. You travel to states where you have the gun rights and don't have to worry about doing anything crazy. I did look up, because it is that time of year. We got special legislation session going on here in Florida. Just Monday, the assault weapons ban and large capacity magazine bill was filed in the House of Representatives here in Florida. But that's an annual tradition by the minority Democrats here in Florida, because we have the Republicans have the supermajority. So every year it gets put forward and goes to committee and dies there.
Yeah. Let's hope that is the same. Yeah, there's no guarantees in the world, but let's hope it's the same thing this year. It gets introduced and then it just dies quickly.
Yeah, the difference between the last time we had some bad law become law when it came to gun stuff is we no longer have Rick Scott as our governor. We have Captain Florida, Ron DeSantis. So,
real quickly, because I can discuss anything I want now. How does it look for him? He's still trailing the former president in the polls, but I've seen some improvement from DeSantis recently, Nate, nationally.
You know, I've taken a look at the polls, watched them all the time. It's one of the topics we all follow. He's roughly 45 to 50 points behind in the majority of the polls, tied with former Ambassador Haley, right? So she's Governor Haley, Ambassador Haley. He's doing well. You know, the two of them are competing for second place. You know, not that guarantees being vice president by any means, and you know, there's strategic planning to be done. If President Trump, gets nominated, former President Trump gets nominated, who to pull in. You know, Ron DeSantis is going to be a success story here in Florida, no matter what happens, whether he goes to the federal level, as president nomination, vice president nomination, or just stays here in Florida. It appears as though right now him and Haley are competing for to be prince or princess, because the king already exists. So who's next in line to the throne is what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I'll say this: Haley is a lot easier on the eyes than he is. That's one advantage she has. So, although honestly, in policy, I think they're just about dead even.
They're very similar.
He may be a little bit better on Second Amendment issues, simply because he has signed permitless concealed carry. But I don't know. Anyway, sticking with politics. Looks like House Democrats hold. This is an AWR Hawkins story. House Democrats hold roundtable to discuss nationwide gun emergency. What I get out of this one is deep in the article here. Representative Maxwell Frost was in attendance. He suggested, excuse me, and he suggested the gun industry is frightened by the evolving demographic of gun control lobby members. The gun lobby is more afraid now more than ever as they see a multiracial, multi-generational army of Americans who are not willing to relent from the demand for common sense gun reform. And then AWR goes on to point, the next paragraph goes on to point out that, look, that's the same people that are buying guns right now. They are younger. They are multiracial. It's not going to be long, and old white guys are going to be the minority when it comes to purchasing firearms.
Yeah, it's funny, right? The title of this gathering should have been the Democratic fundraising event, because that's what it was. This is a way for them to go back to the old base, right? And let's what do we need the number one issue? Let's go with guns and violence. Let's bring that one up and get people in here and talk about how we're going to lose and we need donations to retake the House and maintain the Senate. So that's what's going on. There's no well, this is the Democrat speech, right? Is let's throw some lies out there, and if we say them enough, they'll stick, right? They'll become the truth. The pattern is, as the article on AWR point out, is the ownership of guns continues to rise, and the reason it continues to rise is because those owning guns are expanding the type of people that own them. The ages are changing, the race, the sex, the gender is all changing. It's more people feel that they are. And listen, you're not a first time gun buyer because you're a collector, right? You're a first time gun buyer because you're in fear and you think that you need a firearm to protect yourself. And if you get to the point where you think you need a firearm to protect yourself, your politics are sitting on the fence, okay? Because you've always been a no guns are bads. Well, now you got a mortgage, now you got a family, and it's rethinking that a little bit.
Yeah, I keep thinking back to one of the people that works on the Polite Society podcast with me, Robin Sandoval, who's president of A Girl and a Gun. She was a no guns are evil kind of person until the hurricanes hit, 10, 12 years ago down in Louisiana and Texas. And, oh, my goodness, what's going to happen if somebody comes busting in the door here because we have food, we're prepared for hurricanes. What if somebody wants to take that? That's what caused her to turn around. It's not, it could be a fear of anything, but it is a lot of the time. For me personally, I grew up around guns. I fell away from it. 9/11 brought back my interest in firearms in a big way. But it is, I think you're right. It's always fear that brings us to guns, fear of our family's safety, fear of our own safety. And then some of us get turned into activists.
Yeah. There's over the past couple of weeks, there's been a decent increase. I don't know if I'd call it surge yet, but in gun sales going on again. It's nice to see it. The dealers have been looking for it as well. And it's a little late coming out of the summer that they've started to get this spike. But when they're asking people why they're seeing this rise or why they're buying firearms, it's Israel that they state. It's not the BLM doing this, the antis, the Antifas, and all of that stuff that's been been going on again. It's that's not the site. It's like they're they've had overload of that, and they're just it's not in my neighborhood. It's behind somebody else's closed gate. I'm not worried about it. They've had so much of it that they've just it's white noise now. It's been blacked out. But the attacks in Israel are like what's 90% of what people are citing right now for the reason they're buying firearms. And I mean, we talked about the story about the couple of households in Kibbutz Namir that had firearms, as opposed to the other hundreds, if not 1,000 people that were killed because they didn't have firearms there. So it's the difference between literally, life and death. So there's plenty of people out there right now saying, wow, that's a wake up call,
Absolutely. I was actually about 2 hours ago right now, I was having a conversation with a neighbor that lives 2 houses away from me. And we were discussing, collections and what, I never give out everything I have, but we were discussing some of the things that we possess and what would happen if something were to happen in our neighborhood. That happens in real life. I believe, honestly, Mike, that it's happening door to door everywhere in the United States. And I think you're right. I think that's part of the push for the increased sales.
Yeah, at least that's what the dealers down here tell me. I haven't talked to a lot of dealers outside of the Southeast, but that's what I'm getting here. So it seems to be working well.
All right, let's take a look. Oops, let me get over here. I got to get this one. I got to get this comment up here real quick. Robert says, "Don't cloud the discussion with facts, Paul." I'll try to rein that in. I do want to talk a little bit with you about their Firearms Policy Coalition has a press release, and this is from yesterday, Today, Firearms Policy Coalition announced that Judge John Milton Young of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania granted summary judgment for the plaintiff in Williams versus Garland, which challenged the Federal Gun Control Act's lifetime ban on the exercise of the Second Amendment rights due to a single misdemeanor conviction for a crime that does not involve violence, physical harm, or a firearm. Guy was convicted of a DUI, and the ATF decided that, yeah, no, you're banned for life because of a misdemeanor DUI conviction. This guy was able to get it overturned. Good on him. Good on the Firearms Policy Coalition for backing him in court. What do you think, man?
Yeah, listen, before we jump into this, can we just, again, pat the likes of, Firearm Policy Coalition and all their people, Chief Attorney, Cody Wazowski there, as well as everything we get from Second Amendment Foundation, and Adam Kraut, their Chief Attorney, with all the design they have there from Alan Gottlieb directing that program. It just, without these two kinds of organizations, and there's plenty more, folks, you got them on the state level, a couple more on the national. Without them, we're literally dead in the water. All right. And listen, I don't care if you join one, both, all 10, or, or just pick your favorite one. These cases they fight, they're not free. All right. And it's your donation money that helps us all keep our rights, because this ends in an injunction, or this ends in a new case law, and it affects every one of us, or if not per the district, per the nation. So please support these people, because they're doing everything they can to maintain our rights. Paul, was this ATF that did the ban, or was it the local state that did the ban? I don't recall looking at this one. I can tell you I've run into these horror stories many times, and the reason DUI is one of them that gets roped into it is because in many of the courts, if you plead guilty to DUI, you also agree to take, as part of the plea deal, alcohol treatment, right? Alcohol addiction treatment. Well, once you've said you have alcohol addiction treatment, you can be roped into the whole, I've admitted to having a substance abuse policy, and therefore lose your rights, as opposed to a guilty conviction, right? Which just means you got found guilty. You never said you were an addict or were addicted to alcohol or had an alcohol problem. Not saying go get the conviction rather than plea out if you get a DUI. I'm just saying it's a little anomaly in there. I can tell you that in Florida and as well as California, I know, if you get arrested for DUI and you've got a concealed weapons permit, they take your concealed weapons permit away from you, because now you're under supervision, right? You're under supervision by the probation or parole or whoever it happens to be. And there's a little stipulation in those state laws that say you can't have a concealed weapons permit if you're under supervision. And then I also know in Florida, once you clear everything, Paul, they say you're clear, you're done. You've you pled out your DUI, or you got convicted, you did your 1 year's no driver's license, you paid your $5,000 fine. They still wait 3 years before they'll approve you to either purchase a firearm or get a concealed weapons permit, because somewhere along the line, somebody has decided that 3 years enough time for you to no longer have an alcohol addiction and you can have a firearm.
Wow.
So these are spread all throughout the country differently. Each state has decided what the penalty for being a DUI or any alcohol-related offense has against you and your firearm permits rights. These cases are I think are ripe to be some of the next kind of cases that get large and we notice. I think the only issue that they're not is because they're misdemeanor stuff. I think probably after we get through the issue of the domestic violence cases, that DUIs and alcohol-related cases might be the next ones that we see tackled on a whole.
And I'm going to say if you have a beer, you are probably safe still. Depending on who you are, you're probably safe still to have a firearm in your possession. Beyond that, I'd really rather you have things locked up and have a designated defender, somebody that covers your butt for you. Should it be your right to consume whatever you want to, be it intoxicating or not? Yes, it should be. I believe it's your responsibility, if you're going to mess with your head, that, and let's face it, alcohol does that. A lot of recreational drugs that are now legal in some places, not so much, and others do the same thing. I believe you should be able to do anything you want. However, It's your responsibility if you're not if you're taking something that's going to cloud your thinking, it's time to put your firearms away. I don't believe that anything you do with that should hinder your ability to purchase a gun. If you are sober, you ought to be able to walk in, cash and carry, do whatever you like. But yeah, again, I'm right with you. Good on Firearms Policy Coalition, and I'm right there. You need to belong to the number one, first and foremost, and you need to belong to the NRA. You need to belong to SAF or Firearms Policy Coalition or Gun Owners of America, or all four. And you need to belong, if you've got a state organization where you live, like New Jersey does, like New York does, like a lot of the states where they're struggling to, you need to belong to the state level organization where you're at too.
Look, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association brought us the Bruin case.
Yeah.
Those state cases, they're very important,
Yeah, the Bruin is let's face it, the previous decisions altogether don't add up to what Bruin gave us, and that was a state. That was a New York City, to be honest with you. That was a New York City case, not even New York State. Yep. So, one more story, and then I think we're going to go ahead and shut it down for the night. We've only got about 4 minutes left, but we can go a little long. I'm going to skip to this Cam Edwards story. A judge in Colorado said that keep and bear arms does not mean you can acquire firearms. U.S. District Judge John L. Kane, an 86-year-old appointee of Jimmy Carter back in 1977, made this eyebrow-raising decision in a case known as Rocky Mountain Gun Owners versus Paulus, which challenges Colorado's newly enacted 3-day waiting period for all gun sales. Let me go into here. The plaintiffs contend that the words keep and bear in the Second Amendment are implicated by the waiting period required in the act. In Heller, the Supreme Court examined the normal meaning of these words at the time of the nation's founding, reviewing definitions from contemporaneous dictionaries. As the court explained, the 1773 definition of Samuel Johnson's Dictionary of the English Language defined keep as most relevantly to retain, not to lose, and to have in custody. The court then turned to the word bear and determined that means to carry. Court also clarified that when bear is used with arms, however, the term has a meaning that refers to the carrying for a particular purpose, confrontation. So in putting all the pieces together, the court found the text of the Second Amendment guarantees the individual the right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation. And it goes on a little bit longer, but basically he says you have the right to keep, you have the right to bear, you just don't have the right to acquire firearms. This one's going down flaming, man. It's not going to take a long time, but I think if you're in the Carter administration, you've been appointed in the Carter administration, I don't care which judge you are, you probably need to go to the retirement home.
Yeah, let's see. So if he got appointed in the last year of Carter, right, that means he's been sitting up there for 43 years, right? So, if it was the early days, it was 47 years. So that's a long time to be sitting on that bench. Listen, 86, first off, I'm proud of you. 86 a big number. Good for you. I'm glad you get to go to work every day still. But you may want to just go fishing from now on because your decisions are not the greatest in the world. This is ridiculous. This is clearly not even in compliance with Heller, let alone McDonald or Bruin, right? The right to acquire a firearm is not covered under the right to keep and bear arms. What was it? I forget the name of the case. I always forget this one from a couple of years back where they said they were going to, fine, we're not going to take away your guns. We'll just take away your ammo. And the court said, no, ammo's part of guns. It's like saying you can have a car, but you can't have a steering wheel. It's ridiculous. It's all the same part. This one will go down. This one will go down fast. I'm surprised it hasn't gone down. I know it's a case from today. I'm surprised it hasn't been halted already. This one's that crazy and that ludicrous. There's fights. We've seen fights before go either way. So this is kind of nice over the waiting day, right? Over the waiting period. There's a waiting period. Let's step aside from his ridiculous statement that acquire is not part of the Second Amendment. We have seen argument before that waiting periods are not a violation of the Second Amendment. And then, of course, Paul, both you and I and everybody else in the advocate industry here or activist industry would refer you to Carol Brown out of New Jersey and find out how that case went for her.
Yeah, it unfortunately was fatal for her. But you're right, Carol Brown. She was she wasn't applying for a carry permit. She was applying for a purchase permit. And New Jersey law at the time said they had 30 days to process her application. I believe it was 46 days, her soon-to-be former husband, who she'd filed for divorce with, walked into her garage and unfortunately ended her life while she was defenseless.
Yeah, absolutely right. And listen, she probably would have applied for a concealed weapons permit, but they didn't exist in New Jersey at the time.
Yeah. They shouldn't exist. You shouldn't need them. But
you're right. Yeah. She was looking for a home owner's permit to have one in the home.
Yeah. Let me get this one in, and then we got to jump out. We're over time, but let me get this comment in from C&T Designs and Arms. Does not the definition of well-regulated cover obtaining arms and training? Well-regulated. Someday, Mike, you and I are going to have to dig into well-regulated. Well-regulated, my understanding is the well-regulated part of the Second Amendment in terms of 1792 meant well-trained, meaning you could put the shot where you wanted to when you put your booger hook on the bang switch. That's my understanding of what regulated means.
Correct, as it applied to the militias, right? They wanted them to be proficient at what they did, so when they called them up in defense of the nation, they were ready to go. Because you remember, out of the First Continental and Second Continental Congress, they wanted no standing army. Well, they changed their mind in 1812, and we've had a standing army ever since. But for those intervening years, that was the purpose of that, was to make sure our militias, our reserve forces, our guard and reserves had proper firearm training and ammunition.
Yeah,
have the comma. Then you have the comma where it has the right of the people to keep and bear arms are separate. Let's be clear on that. And the courts have found that since Heller, that's an individual right. There's two separate things covered in the Second Amendment.
I'm about to offend a great number of our listeners here because, standing army, where does that put the Air Force? They all sit. Whether you're in a fighter jet, whether you're at a computer desk, whatever you're doing, I've never seen somebody in the Air Force standing. Just saying. All right, let's go ahead. We got to get out of here, man. We're well over the 30 minutes. Mike, tell us about the rundown. Tell us about Arms Room Radio on our way out the door.
Sure. The rundown comes on 6 p.m. daily. Check it in any place you get podcasts. You can watch it, either in video form or listen to the audio of it. Myself and Craig DeLuz, candidate for 6th congressional seat out of California, the Republican, vying for the seat there. Looks like you got a good chance too. In a Republican stronghold. And then the Arms Room every weekend, Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. on Eastern time. I've been doing it. We're in our 9th year, coming up on 10 here. And invite everybody who's listening to join us at SHOT Show for the kickoff party on Monday, the 22nd at the Hofbrau House. No SHOT Show attendance required. Just get your butts to Vegas and let's all have a good night together on that Monday night.
And bring your ear pro. I'd definitely bring your ear pro. I'm going to say for the rundown, if you're on Facebook, and I did this myself just a little bit ago, search Facebook for the rundown. And then when you go up to that page, actually select their page, click the following tab, and make sure that you get live video all notifications, because I was talking with Mike pre-show and I wasn't getting notifications for the rundown over the last several days. I didn't know why. And I went in and Facebook had unsubscribed me from their feed as far as live
There you
video.
go. How they do
So
it.
make sure you get notifications whenever they go live if you're a Facebook person. I don't know if you guys are YouTube or not, or just Rumble, but make sure that you're getting all of notifications for all their broadcasts, because it slipped away from me. That is going to do it for me today. Everybody, do please come join me Friday for Legal Friday with Alex Uli. We're going to be talking more about Fifth Circuit's decision and a lot of other things in the legal arena around the Second Amendment. That's it for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. Podcast listeners, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.